I was out on my usual rounds as a park ranger, patrolling the remote trails of the forest. It was a crisp autumn morning, with the leaves turning golden and red, and the air was cool and fresh. As I hiked along the winding path, I caught sight of something strange ahead. There, lying in the middle of the trail, was a severed deer head. Its eyes were open wide, as if in shock or horror, and its tongue hung out of its mouth. I froze in horror, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was not uncommon to see animal remains in the forest, but something about this sight sent a shiver down my spine. As I examined the severed head, I noticed that the neck had been cleanly cut, as if with a sharp knife. But there was no sign of the rest of the deer's body, no blood trail or any other evidence of what had happened. I radioed for backup and waited anxiously for my fellow rangers to arrive. As we surveyed the area, we found no further clues as to what could have caused the grisly discovery. Days turned into weeks, and the incident seemed to fade from memory. But then, something even more bizarre happened. Late one night, I was alone in the ranger station when I heard a strange noise outside. It sounded like something was scratching at the door, trying to get in. I cautiously opened the door and peered outside, but there was nothing there, just the sound of rustling leaves and twigs cracking underfoot. As I turned to go back inside, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. There, in the shadows of the trees, I saw a dark figure darting away from me. My heart pounding, I pursued the figure, but it was too fast for me to catch. All I could see was a flash of fur and the glint of something metallic in its hand. As I returned to the ranger station, my mind raced with possibilities. Could this be the culprit behind the severed deer head? And if so, what was their motive? Over the following weeks, strange occurrences continued to plague the forest. Hikers reported eerie sounds in the woods, sightings of shadowy figures darting through the trees, and strange markings etched into the bark of the trees. As the rumors spread, I knew I had to investigate further. So I set out into the forest, armed with a flashlight and a sense of determination. What I found in the heart of the forest was beyond anything I could have imagined. A secret grove, hidden deep in the woods, filled with strange symbols etched into the ground and the trees. And in the center of the grove stood a figure, dressed in a cloak of fur and wielding a wicked-looking blade. It was the same figure I had glimpsed in the shadows, the one who had eluded me for weeks. As the figure turned to face me, I saw that it was not human at all. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its skin was covered in fur like that of a deer or other woodland creature. I stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. But then, the figure spoke to me, in a voice that was both haunting and alluring. "Join us," it said. "Join the spirits of the forest and become one with the wild." And in that moment, I knew that I had a choice to make: to turn away from the darkness and return to the safety of civilization, or to embrace the unknown and become a part of something greater than myself. In the end, I chose the path of the unknown, the path that led deeper into the forest and into the arms of the mysterious figure. My name is Sarah, and I have been working as a park ranger in Yosemite National Park for the past 5 years. As a ranger, I have seen my fair share of strange things in the park, from unusual animal behavior to unexplained sounds in the night. However, nothing could have prepared me for what I discovered one fateful morning. It was a typical day on the job when I received a call from the park's emergency line. A hiker had reported seeing a body in a remote area of the park, and I was the closest ranger to the location. I quickly made my way to the site, which was deep in the wilderness and far from any marked trails. As I approached the area, I noticed that something was off. There was an eerie silence that seemed to envelop the entire area, and I felt as if I was being watched. As I drew closer to the location of the body, I could see that it was that of a man, lying face down on the ground. I quickly checked for vital signs, but it was clear that he had been dead for some time. There were no visible signs of trauma, and it appeared as if he had simply dropped dead. The odd thing was that there were no signs of struggle, no signs of a heart attack or stroke, and no obvious cause of death. I called in the park's forensic team to investigate, but they were just as baffled as I was. The man's identity was unknown, and there was no sign of any foul play. We searched the area for clues, but there was nothing that could explain his sudden and mysterious death. As the days passed, the park became abuzz with rumors of the Yosemite curse. Legend had it that there was a curse on the park, dating back to the days of the native Miwok tribes. The curse was said to have been placed on the land in retaliation for the tribe's forced removal by the U.S. government, and it was said to cause all sorts of strange and unexplainable events. Many park employees dismissed the rumors as nothing more than superstition, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this case than meets the eye. I began to do my own investigation, poring over old park records and speaking to locals about the curse. What I discovered was shocking. The man who had died was not just any hiker, but a notorious treasure hunter who had been searching for a lost Miwok treasure for years. According to his journal, he had finally found the treasure, but as he was about to leave the park, he suddenly collapsed and died. I was shocked by this revelation, but it was nothing compared to what I would discover next. The treasure hunter's body was not the only one found in the park that year. In fact, there had been a rash of unexplained deaths in the park over the past few months, all of them occurring near areas where the treasure hunter had been known to search. As I delved deeper into the case, I began to see a pattern emerge. The treasure hunter had not found a cursed treasure, but something far more dangerous. It appeared that the treasure was guarded by a tribe of Miwok spirits who were determined to protect their land at all costs. It was a chilling discovery, and one that I knew would shake the park to its core. But I also knew that it was my duty to protect the park and its visitors, no matter what the cost. As I continued my investigation, I knew that I was walking a dangerous path, but I was determined to uncover the truth and put an end to the curse once and for all. I was out on my usual patrol as a park ranger in Yosemite National Park, hiking along a well-trodden trail that wound through the dense forest. It was a cool and overcast day with the clouds hanging low in the sky and a light mist falling from above. As I turned a corner in the trail, I stumbled upon a strange sight. There, in the middle of the path, were two corvus heads. The sight sent shivers down my spine, and I felt a wave of unease wash over me. I had seen many strange things in the forest, but this was something entirely different. The heads were pristine, with no signs of decay or decomposition, and they were placed side by side in a perfectly symmetrical arrangement. I radioed for backup, and soon other park rangers arrived on the scene. We searched the surrounding area, but there were no other signs of a struggle or any indication of what had happened. Over the coming days and weeks, more corvus heads were found throughout the park. They appeared to be carefully placed in different locations, as if someone or something was sending a message. As the weeks turned into months, rumors began to spread about the corvus heads. Some said they were the work of a deranged serial killer, while others claimed that they were a warning from the spirits of the forest. I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease every time I came across another one of the gruesome displays. It was as if the park was being invaded by some malevolent force, one that we couldn't see or comprehend. And then, one day, something even more bizarre happened. I was on my usual rounds when I heard a strange noise coming from a nearby clearing. It sounded like a faint chanting, almost like a prayer or a song. Curious, I cautiously approached the clearing, keeping my distance and trying to remain unseen. As I got closer, I could see a group of people gathered around a fire, their faces painted with strange symbols and their bodies adorned with feathers and animal bones. And in the center of the circle stood a figure dressed in a cloak of black feathers and holding a corvus head in each hand. I watched in horror as the figure began to chant, its voice rising and falling in a strange rhythm. The others around the fire joined in, their voices blending together in a cacophony of sound. As the ritual continued, I realized that this was no ordinary gathering. There was something deeply sinister about the proceedings, something that sent chills down my spine. And then, suddenly, the chanting stopped. The figure in the cloak turned to face me, and I could see its eyes glinting in the firelight. "You're not supposed to be here," it said, its voice low and menacing. "You're interfering with forces you can't possibly understand." And with that, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone in the clearing with nothing but the sound of the fire crackling in the background. Over the coming days, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. Something had been awoken in the park, something ancient and powerful, and I knew that if I didn't act soon, the consequences could be dire. As I delved deeper into the mystery of the corvus heads, I uncovered a shocking truth. They were not the work of a deranged killer or the spirits of the forest. They were a warning, a message from something far more sinister. The figure in the cloak was a member of a secret society that worshipped an ancient god, one that demanded sacrifices in order to maintain its power, and the corvus heads were just the beginning. In a race against time, I worked with other rangers and law enforcement to uncover the identity of the members of this secret society. It was a difficult task, as they operated in the shadows and left no trace of their actions. But through a combination of surveillance and undercover work, we were able to identify several members of the society and gather evidence of their activities. We discovered that they had been performing rituals in various locations throughout the park, sacrificing animals and even humans to their dark god. It was a shocking revelation, and one that left us all reeling. We knew we had to act quickly to stop them before more lives were lost. We organized a raid on the society's main base of operations, a hidden cave deep in the heart of the forest. Armed with weapons and backup, we stormed the cave and apprehended several members of the society. But as we entered the cave, we realized that we were too late. The society had already performed their most heinous ritual yet, summoning the ancient god they worshipped and offering it a sacrifice of human flesh. The god was a towering figure, with wings of black feathers and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. It let out a deafening roar, and I knew that we were all in grave danger. We fought valiantly, but the god was too powerful. It swatted us aside with ease, its massive wings sending us tumbling through the air. We were like ants before its immense power, and I knew that there was no way we could defeat it. But then, something unexpected happened. The god's attention was suddenly drawn to one of the rangers, a young woman who had been standing in the corner of the cave. She was holding a small object in her hand, one that glowed with a bright light. The god approached her slowly, its massive form looming over her like a dark cloud. But as it drew closer, I realized what the object was, a talisman passed down through generations of her family, imbued with the power to banish dark spirits and entities. With a fierce determination, the ranger raised the talisman high and spoke an incantation in a language I didn't recognize. There was a blinding flash of light, and the god let out a deafening scream as it was banished back to the depths of the underworld from whence it came. The cave was suddenly quiet, save for the sound of our ragged breathing and the crackling of the fire. We had won, but at a great cost. The ranger who had banished the god was severely injured, and several of us had suffered injuries as well. As we emerged from the cave, blinking in the bright sunlight, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the forest held. It was a place of immense power and ancient magic, a place where the line between the living and the dead was often blurred. But one thing was certain: we would never forget the lesson we had learned that day. We would always be vigilant, always on the lookout for signs of the supernatural, and always ready to confront the forces of darkness that threatened to consume us all.